keep it going for Lindsey. Come to the stage now. Come on, Brooklyn! This is Lindsey's first time.
So I walked into my office one morning 3 years ago, sat down at my desk, and immediately my phone rang. I picked it up, and it was my boss who asked me to please see her in her office. And immediately I thought, fuck, she knows that I send my rent check every month using the office postal machine. So I took a really deep breath, I got up, and I walked into her office, sat across from her desk, and I mentally prepared myself to be fired. But that wasn't what this conversation was about. Instead, my boss told me that the night before, her son had been walking across the 3rd Avenue Bridge in the Bronx when he came across a 3-week-old kitten. And so my boss pulls out her phone, and she starts to show me picture after picture of this tiny 3-week-old kitten. And then she looked me right in the eyes, and she told me that she was bringing the cat to the shelter after work. Unless I was willing to take him. In my head, I thought there is no fucking way I'm taking this cat. I'm pretty unhappy in my job at that point, and I know that when I'm unhappy, I leave. At that point, I'd lived in 6 different cities in 3 different countries over the past 5 years. And anytime I had a job that kind of sucked or a boyfriend I was unhappy with, I left because it's easier to be unhappy when I knew I was leaving. It means I didn't have to actually fix any of the things that kind of sucked. So after a long silence, my boss told me that I didn't have to make a decision. Why don't I just come to the apartment and see the cat? Which is kind of like going to someone's apartment just to see a cat who needs a home is kind of like going to your OkCupid date's apartment just to see the place. No one really fucking believes that you're there just to look. So 5 minutes later, true to form, we're on the Uptown 6 train to 86 and Lex, and we get off and we go to my boss's apartment, where I meet this tiny, adorable 3-week-old kitten. And drunk on kitten love, I forget all my reservations, and I agree to take this cat back from my boss's Upper East Side apartment to my place in Queens. So we get home, and I now have this tiny, adorable, and really fucking sick 3-week-old kitten. Whoops. And I realize I need to find a vet for this cat. So I look up the cheapest vet in my neighborhood, and I give them a call. And the receptionist on the phone sounds a little bit nervous after I tell her my story, like maybe this wasn't the best idea. And she asks me if the cat has had a bowel movement. Not yet. So she tells me that if the cat hasn't had a bowel movement by this time tomorrow, I'll need to give her a call. Okay. So I hang up the phone and I do what I do in all times of medical crisis. I turn to the internet and I Google, what does it mean if your cat isn't shitting? And I learn that cats actually don't begin to poop on their own until they're about 3 or 4 weeks old. And until then, their mothers stimulate their tiny little cat anuses with their tongues in order to get them to go to the bathroom. And if the mothers don't do this, the cats can die. And as I'm reading this, I realize with a rising sense of panic that I am now this cat's mother. Oh. So I'm sitting there on the floor of my living room, and I don't really have much furniture because I move so often. And it's 8 o'clock, and the cat hasn't shit. And it's 9 o'clock, and it's 10 o'clock, and at this point, I'm in a complete panic. I knew that this was a bad idea. I shouldn't have taken this cat. I've really been thinking about how much I wanted to teach English in Dubai or work on that organic melon farm or anything that was not being here. And if I had this cat tying me to this place, tying me to New York, it meant I couldn't leave. So it's 11 o'clock, and it's 12 o'clock, and it's 1 o'clock, and still the cat hasn't shit. And then it's 2 o'clock, and the cat gets up and walks into the middle of the living room and takes a giant fucking shit. And I feel so happy and so relieved at the shit in my living room. And things aren't always perfect from that point on. I have other shitty jobs. I have other things that aren't great. But I build a life for myself in New York, and I stay.
That's Lindsey. Give it up for her.